Yo, yo.
Hello.
What up, man?
Hey,
How you doing? How's today going?
pretty good so far.
Hell yeah. Fuck yeah. Okay. Off to a good
How's your
start. My day is not bad. Not good. No, I would okay. That's not that it's not good. My day's a day. I'll just say that. That's a normal day.
Could be worse.
Yeah, man. All right, I'm jumping into StarCraft. Let's fucking do this. All right, so your Terran definitely feels like you were saying you have some improvements and stuff, and you're wanting to like kind of what would you prefer? Would you prefer to kind of like break down your existing game and build upon that, or would you prefer to kind of just like re-benchmark yourself with the style you want that I can just give you benchmarks for?
Uh, I'm up for either. I don't know if I really have a style I like super want. I kind of like mech, and I don't think I have like the APM to like play bio really well. Like whenever I play bio, I always just like lose all my units and get annoyed about it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not paying attention for 1 second.
And,
And
and just to clarify, you're still like you are still platinum, but you're on the verge of coming to diamond, right? That's what you said.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
I think if I play like another week of just like playing games without getting better, I think my MMR will keep going up based on like I like lost a bunch when I was just like messing around trying stuff, but I pretty consistently beat Diamond 3 people.
Yeah, that's really good, man. So I would actually recommend definitely sticking to mech for now, just to really like hammer out the final aspects of hitting. Like that's why I really think like the benchmark thing might be not a bad idea. Like we could even take like maybe half a lesson to do a benchmark and half the lesson to go over a replay or something.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Uh,
Sounds good.
but that'll be a way where you can really like I would say push yourself to be like, all right, well, can I really truly hit the next quota of like what diamond is? Like beating diamond players already is really good, but just being able to hit the timers for yourself really.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I have a lot I spent a lot of time like doing just like Thor Hellbat builds, like timing myself at like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes. And I haven't really done that once I started incorporating like cyclones and hellbats and or cyclones and hellions
yeah,
and like those kind of things. And I think I do like have like idle factories more often and stuff like that.
yeah, no, definitely. As soon as you start incorporating like anything that is harass, like if you poke it, if you defend or you attack, usually that's when people are like, oh yeah, I forgot there's macro in this game. Let's do that in a
Yeah.
little bit.
I guess the other thing I was curious about is like if I should be changing my hotkeys or something like that.
No, that's preference. You don't have to do that. So like camera
Okay.
hotkeys is preference. You do not have to do it, and just actual hotkeys. I would say if you think of something efficient, where you're like, yeah, I could make this better. You could totally try it, but it's not required. It's not required to get better.
Okay. Got it. I'll just stick with what I'm using, I guess.
Yeah, it's because if you switch around too much too, you're every time you switch it, you're gonna go through that habit where you have to relearn it. So you're gonna muscle memory hit the wrong shit, and you'll be like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks of just like, oh, okay, well I'm not used to this, and now I'm sucking because of that, and then eventually you get used to it, and if you're like, now I don't like this, I'm gonna go back to something else. You go through the process again. So it's not worth unless you really know you like it, unless you want to do that.
Okay.
But yeah, anyways, I am on Battle.net, and if you are as well, we can get this going. I don't know. But probably easiest way to do it again would be just, I guess, message me through the GM list.
Yeah, I think I can find you.
Okay.
What
So
number are you these
98
days?
right now. I'm 98. Because just as I hate the Battle.net chat system, man. Could be so much better. All right. So I invited you to party. I guess we can jump into a replay for you first. If you want to do that to open. And then we can kind of like I can kind of get an idea. You kind of run me through like what you kind of generally want to look at, or what you generally like how you want to play the game essentially. And then I can give you benchmarks after that.
Okay. Let me see if I can find
If you don't have one though, because I know there was a new patch. If you don't have one on hand, that's like something you specifically want. You could just walk me through it really quick, and I can help guide you to something as well. That would also work.
give me 1 sec. I think I
Sure.
have.
No worries. Someone give me a sub, ViBE. First one ever. Oh, welcome, dude.
I definitely stay in this game too long because I was just kind of annoyed at the guy for
Yeah,
being
no,
annoying in chat.
it's all good, man.
So that's I'm not super proud of that. I don't usually do that.
It's all
but
good.
I just got annoyed at this guy.
Sometimes I do it as well. I'm just like, fuck this guy.
But I think the thing that's interesting about this game for me is that I thought I actually played like pretty well, but I lost, and like usually when I lose, there's like just like obvious mistakes that I know that I did. Whereas here, like, I mean, there's obviously like things that were mistakes, but they were sort of like, I thought I played like generally pretty well for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think in this replay, I mean, I know it's like 34 minutes long. We'll probably...
The game's really over after like 15 minutes.
Exactly, yeah. That's how most StarCraft games are for sure. I was going to say we should look at maybe like the first little bit of it. Maybe like I just would prefer to look at like maybe like the first 6-7 minutes.
Okay.
Just to kind of get a general idea of what you're doing and how you're opening, and then we'll go from there. Because if you can really make the first 6 or 7 minutes of your game solid as fuck, every aspect of the game after that's going to feel super easy.
Yeah. I think I actually... One thing that I think I do need to work on is like, a lot of times I'll open like with like 3 factories, like 1 reactored and 2 with tech labs. And I think like timing out when to take the second gas and when to like get which factories in what order and what add-ons and those kinds of things. I don't think I have that tight at all.
Yeah. So far your build's fine. I mean, you took... the only thing I would say is you took your gas before the barracks this game. Just it's very minor.
Yeah, I don't normally do that, but I like screwed up something like trying to fiddle putting my SCVs on the closed patches, and then took my supply depot too late. So I thought it would like line up better.
Yeah.
That way, but that...
It's not too big of a deal. It's minor. It's super minor. Because I mean you're still gonna use the gas. It's just that your Reaper I would say the only thing it really does is now that you're expanding, it delays your natural by probably like 3 seconds. But like it still has it's not that it's like a waste though. It still has purpose, and it's that your factory will go faster.
Yeah. It was more just like trying to compensate for another mistake I made more than like a conscious choice.
Well, so far now though, that's actually huge. What's happening? You haven't made an SCV on your command center for a while. That is massive. I would say that was like a solid like 30 seconds you missed on making SCVs right there.
Oh jeez, I didn't even really notice that.
Yeah, because it's like when the drone came in, that's because you did 2 things. You microed your SCV to save it at his base, and then the drone came in right after that, and then you microed Reaper in your SCVs to try and pull. So you didn't make an SCV the whole time. That was like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then now, if you want to take a second gas and your SCV's kind of chilling there, like you're like annoyed by the gas in your base or whatever, I would say honestly, if you're gonna go for an expansion, just put your natural at the natural. Make your life easy peasy. Or sorry, put your gas at the natural is what I meant to say.
Yeah, I ended up doing that this game. I just didn't do it quite right away.
Sure. But just know to the build, if you don't take your gas right when you take your factory, the second gas that is, your build's gonna get totally fucked. And so your second gas right now is very, very late. We're talking like 90 seconds late so far.
I think that I'd been trying to like intentionally delay it more because I just watched some videos where people were sort of saying if you focus more on minerals, you can expand more faster and stuff like that.
Sure.
But then I could never figure out how to get... I could never get all my factories up and producing quickly. So that's probably a big...
Pause it really fast, just so we don't miss anything else for a second. So one of the big reasons why I would say you really need to get your second gas really fast. It's like the way the build goes is you go depot racks, and you make as soon as you make the racks, you tie that racks with the gas, and then you tie the factory as soon as the barracks is done. As soon as you can afford a factory, you make factory, and then you tie the factory with your second gas. The reason why this is important is because if the Zerg decides to do any type of pressure to you that is not pure Zerglings, you would probably die because you would have absolutely no way to handle roaches.
Yeah, I die. That's happened a couple of times for sure.
So like if you don't actually pace your second factory, you'll have no tech lab aspect to it, and the roaches just auto win versus you then. All right, so that's just the concept of why that's important. Because if you don't take the second gas, then your roach defense is literally non-existent then.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I think I was just like needed somebody to tell me it was okay to take a second gas.
Yeah, because you can still take a third command center pretty fast with 2 gases. Yeah. It's just like if you only did 1 gas and only Hellions, you could take a third command center really fucking fast. But then yeah, that build is like extremely vulnerable.
Yeah, I don't think my scouting is good enough to.
Even if your scouting is good enough, a Zerg could literally still kill you in so many ways with the fact that if you really wanted to do it, a Zerg could actually proxy a Roach Warren by building a hatchery, canceling it, and building a Roach Warren on the same spot where the creep was a second ago. Like, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, every Zerg is going to do that to you. It'd be extremely rare that a Zerg would actually do that. But the fact is that the build that you would have, it just has this massive hole in it that could be abused by any type of Roach build. So it's definitely a habit that would just fuck you over more and more as you progressed. Okay, yeah, this guy is kind of a... he's like a super douchey. GG. He's like, yeah, I just lost like all my lings and also a couple drones, and you lost literally 1 Hellion and a Reaper. GG. Get out. It's a quality human being here. Oh my god. Okay. Sorry, I'm on your side 100% already. This guy's... Alright. So... Now, with this, obviously, at this point, you would definitely want to be having the production be flowing still on top of that, and it's kind of, you're kind of missing the beat here a little bit with your factories.
Yeah.
And it's super huge as well to hit it as soon as you can, just because of the fact that, again, the earlier setup of everything is always going to set the pace for everything afterwards. Yeah. And, I mean, I know that this guy might have just, like, totally fucked your train of thought, where he's just kind of annoying, but, yeah, it's pretty massive. Okay, now I'm gonna watch you marker this for a second, and I mean that was fine because they were slow lings, but go ahead and pause it really fast one more time. I just want to explain this. If you ever fight against somebody who has pure Zerglings, okay, this is the most fucking annoying way to screw them over. If you fight someone who has pure lings, so if Banelings are here, or I guess if Roaches are here, it doesn't really matter either. But if Banelings, you can't really do this. But if it's a lot of Zerglings, okay, just think about this. If he had speed, and he was actually more of a threat there, if you kite the Zerglings into your mineral line, and you run your Hellions through a choke point of mineral patches, you don't run all the way through, like to the other end, and then let the Zerglings come through it as well. What you do is you run all your Hellions up to the point when your last Hellion is in the doorway of that mineral patch. So any patch would work, because these are all like little choke points, essentially. You lure the lings into it, and then you leave it to where your last Hellion is like barely, like it's like basically almost like you're blocking a door of like 2 depots with a Hellion. You know what I mean? Like where it's like a 1 pixel gap. If all the lings get stuck in that little gap, your Hellions, their damage basically multiplies by like 5 times what they're normally doing. It's ridiculous how good they are, because all the lings, they bottleneck really hard into that choke point, and they're all trying to attack the same Hellion. And it not only does it reduce surface area on your Hellion, so you don't get surrounded, you don't take much damage at all, but it makes the lings bottleneck so deep, like so hardcore in that little spot that your Hellions just get like, each Hellion's hitting like every ling rather than one Hellion hitting like 2 lings at a time, because he's like surrounding you. So it's insane how effective that is. You can make like 5, or rather like maybe like 6 supply or like 8 supply of Hellions, which is 3 or 4 Hellions. They could actually only kill maybe like 8 supply of lings if lings are out on the map for real, and like you're actually getting smacked the whole time and they get decent surrounds on you. You could probably take equal trades there, but like the more Hellions you get, obviously the more that gets in Hellion's favor. But if you have like 4 Hellions, 4 Hellions could actually take on like 20 supply of Zerglings, which is like 40 lings if you do that in the mineral line. I'm dead serious. Like it's something you're gonna have to start doing and get used to get good at. If you play somebody who goes for a ling all in, like I'm sure you've probably played this before, and you probably will play this a lot more, as people do this shit all the time in Diamond League. Like this is why I think this is really important, because when I did it, when I was playing Terran, and even now when I play Terran, when I play Zergs who are in the like the 4K range of MMR, like 4.2, 4.5, whatever, they fucking always do this. They're always like, I'm just gonna make speed, 19 drones, and I'm gonna make 75 Zerglings, just nonstop ling.
Yeah.
And if you just keep dragging them into the mineral line, stop right at the edge of that mineral patch to where your Hellions drag them in the choke point, and you just roast them. It's like, wow, I just killed 15 lings just died. Another 15 lings just died, and it's over. It's like, wow, that was really effective. So always have that mindset. And again, I know he didn't have speed there, but just always have the mindset no matter where you are on the map. If you get caught by lings anywhere and there's a mineral line close to you, drag him to the mineral line and fucking roast his ass in a choke point. And it will make your Hellions trade so efficiently. If it's ever an option.
Yeah,
Oh,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's super important to do that. But yeah, I just want to make sure you always think about that. But you can hit play again. We can go a little bit further. So what I think you should do here with your build, just looking at it, I do think your production was a little lacking here and there, which is why, like, for instance, you have the factories right now or you kind of backed off on it a little bit, but you had like 3 cyclones in 1 second ago, and I think you could macro just a little bit better with the the uptime of your production, if that's what our main focus is for now, and then the SV count obviously as well. I think could be a little bit better. But I think the build overall should be something along the lines of your engineering bay, in my opinion, is a little too early. And instead, what I honestly think that should have been is it should have been a armory. And then I think an engineering bay should have started a little bit, like maybe a little bit later. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you're opening Hellion Cyclone. You're not opening up Tank Hellion. All right, pause it again really fast. Okay, so if you're opening up Hellion Cyclone, you already have Cyclones that can deal with like really fast muta harass. Because if a Zerg is the kind of guy that's like, I'm gonna get the fastest mutas I ever could possibly get, you should easily have enough Cyclones in time by the time mutas get to your base, like to counter the muta. Like you would have like 8 Cyclones when he has like 8 mutas in your base. It would be very realistic. And then
so I just can skip turrets for a while until
for the start. Yeah. Like you would exactly. You would want to start making turrets right around the time when you're getting ready to take your 4th base. So starting your engineering bay when you start your 4th command center would be a great idea. And then starting turrets in each one of your bases would be totally fine as you're like lifting the 4th command center to the 4th mineral line to like get ready to become a planetary. That'd be perfect time for turrets because you're more exposed then, you have more bases. But you could easily defend your first base setup, like your main and natural, with your Cyclones, easy peasy. And the thing that would make this build really good, if you go armory first instead, is you could actually get armor upgrade, because weapon upgrade is not going to help your. So here's why you would not get weapons. The Hellion is really only good against Zerglings, and Blue Flame Hellion is not going to change how hard it can kill a Zergling with upgrades or not. The Blue Flame itself makes a Hellion always 2-shot a Zergling. So you're going to 2-shot the Ling like pretty much universally. It's just going to happen. And then on top of that, if you get and then for the Cyclone, if you get a weapon upgrade, it doesn't really do anything for the Cyclone because the Cyclone its focus of damage is really heavily based off of lock-ons, and lock-on is actually considered a spell. It's like an ability. It doesn't actually get upgraded by auto attack damage, so it doesn't affect it at all. The only thing the Cyclone will get affected by with weapon upgrades is between lock-ons, which is only 4 seconds, which is like only a couple of auto attacks. It's realistically like 5 auto attacks or so. But you're never going to sit there as well with your Cyclone, because if you just sit there with your Cyclone auto-attacking between lock-ons, you're probably going to die. Like, a Cyclone is a unit that needs to be pulled back, not just sit there and concave.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But if you have armor upgrades, suddenly it makes your army against shit like this, where what if it was, like, Mutalisk Zergling? It makes it way more durable. Like, it actually can, like, it can get hit and poked while you're kiting him, and it doesn't take shit for damage. It's very much more effective.
Okay.
So yeah, I would just say I would definitely recommend an armory. And then if you also, let's just say this too, if you go for an armory as well, you can also go into a second armory. Like, I would say go into a second armory maybe around the time when your 4th base, like, and you take the engineering bay, you could also make a second armory then. Maybe go to a point when you have like 10 Cyclones. This is going to be a great build for you, I think, honestly. You go to like 10 Cyclones and you make Hellions with it. And then once you get there, you just go Thor Hellbat. And you initially do whatever you can with your 10 Cyclones and your Hellions that pair with it, but then you just go Thor Hellbat, and then if you can slow the Zerg down, that'd be fucking awesome. But eventually you're still going Thor Hellbat, and that's gonna be your power timing.
One thing that I think I have trouble with sometimes is like knowing when to stop, like, and like switch phases.
Yeah.
Or like I'll just sometimes I'll like switch after 6 or 7, or sometimes I'll like just max out on like Hellion Cyclone. And sometimes that'll work.
Yeah.
But I sort of just don't have like a framework for thinking about it.
Just know this, okay? This is a massive concept, and if you understand this concept, it makes a lot of sense for how you make builds rotate and transition and stuff like that. If your build is about all-inning somebody, okay? It's like constant pressure. And if your plan is, I am not going to stop building cyclones until I fuck over the Zerg. If that's what your plan is, then what you want to do is you want to force fights, right? You want to like, even if a fight you're about to take is going to cost you four cyclones. If you're like, yeah, I'm probably going to lose some cyclones here, but I need to do it because I'm going to fuck this guy over and I'm going to keep making cyclones and I want to really kill that base. Like if you're going to go, I'm going to kill his third and I'm going to lose a couple cyclones to do it, but killing that third is really worth it because it's going to put him behind and he won't be able to deal with my more cyclones that are coming. If that's your plan, it makes sense to take fights and force fights to happen. But if your plan is to transition to a stronger army and you're all about control, not about, if you're about controlling the map, not about like pressuring the Zerg to death, essentially, you should not take fights like that. Like if you see a wide open third, then yeah, obviously you can kill it. But if you're like, oh, he's got an army there, don't force something that's going to happen that's going to trade for you. Just try to shave off pieces of his army little by little by little, because even if you're not killing much, but you're making the Zerg feel unsafe by making him make more units than he wants to, you're still winning the game. So the longer your army stays in a threatening position, the better. Because you are actually going to kill him with your different timing you're transitioning to anyways already. So if you play the style that I just said, where I was like, you make 10 cyclones and then you stop, it would make sense to always make 10 cyclones and stop, because your style is all about consistent shaving of the Zerg, not like shaving pieces of him off, not actually trying to just kill him outright. You're not trying to do those greedy fights where it's like, you're dead here, I'm just going to go for it and let's see what happens. You're always trying to kite every time. Even if it's only like 5 roaches, you're not just going to like concave it and be like, let's lose the cyclone maybe and just go further. You're going to like lock onto his ass and you're going to back up and you're going to be really conservative with your units. You're always going to be conservative and take as little damage as you can to like maximize how long your army can last. Because the more annoying you are, the longer it lasts, the more the Zerg will be in a situation where it's like the Zerg is like just being throttled by you if you do it well. And if you're like, well, I've actually taken little wins repeatedly for the last 6 minutes and now I'm maxed. Now I can just push. And the Zerg's actually like lower supply than me and he's going roaches still and I'm on Thor Hellbat. Like I just win now.
Right. Okay. Cool. That makes a lot of sense. Actually, a random question.
Sure.
I remember, like, I feel like I play a lot of longer games because I do kind of play like that. Like, I just try to out macro people.
Yeah.
And so I play a lot of like 20-minute games, and I'll end up with like, you know, 6 or 7 5-second windows to like practice kiting against like roaches or stalkers or something.
Yeah.
I remember like seeing videos of people using like trainer maps or something like a long time ago when I used to play, but then I sort of was trying to search for it last night and I couldn't find anything like that. Like, is there some efficient way to just like practice like keeping things like in that window where the lock on is still on but you're not getting hit, like where I could just do that for like an hour instead of spending 20 minutes to get like 30 seconds of practice with that?
I mean, well, you could like.
I mean, I guess I could just just like play against me or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you have any buddies that play, that'd be probably one of the easiest ways to do it. If you guys just wanted to like micro against each other and just try shit, that would be probably a great way to like feel out the unit. But I also think like I don't think there's actually like a custom game where it's like you can just test out the Cyclone lock-on radius as like specifically for that only. But what I will say is if you do this build consistently still like every game, like you will no matter what still get a lot of practice with it, because if it's going to be your standard all the time, you are going to be using it quite often.
Okay. So maybe I just need to worry about it as like a particular thing.
Like I would say it's more than just Cyclone lock-on radius too. The biggest thing you should kind of start thinking about is range of all units. Because if I were to ask you a question like, do you know what has more range, a Ravager or a Cyclone? Do you know what that is?
With its auto attack?
Yeah. It's initial attack.
It's initial attack?
Like, yeah. So when I say, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to like interrupt you there too. I was just like, let me talk again. But like when The Cyclone is why I said initial attack, because the Cyclone's actual attack radius is short compared to its actual lock-on radius. Essentially, the Cyclone gets like double, really, like relatively. I think the missile lock-on actually increases the radius as well. Maybe it doesn't anymore. Maybe it used to. But either way, like the radius of the auto attack of a Cyclone is like 5, and the lock-on radius is like around 10. It's way bigger. It's like doubles essentially, which is huge. That's a massive radius. And then you have like a Ravager that has like 6. You have a Roach that has like 4. You have a Hydra that has 5, which gets upgraded into 6. So realistically, it'll have 6. You have Zerglings, obviously, which are melee. They're just like 1 melee. You have a Queen, which is 5. You have a Mutalisk, which is 3. Like these units, if you don't know these ranges of these units, you should start committing this to memory, because you can tell just by default if it makes sense if you're getting hit when you're trying to get lock-ons, or if it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Also, another thing that makes it easy too is if you fight against units that you know they're going to hit you, like if you have like a line of Hydras or a line of Ravagers, maybe it would make the most sense to engage those if you also have Hellions in your army, so that Hellions, and what I mean by that is you don't want to like just A-move it and concave it. You would just initiate lock-ons, and in doing so, the Hellions are the one that gets hit. Yeah. And then you just kind of like back up your whole army, Hellions included, but you stay within lock-on radius. And you can see, if you didn't notice, there is a big white checkered box that appears around your unit that you like. If you mouse like, really quickly, just click on a Cyclone, any one of them, and mouse over the lock-on. And now look at the screen around the Cyclone, and do you see that white checkered box that kind of goes in a big circle around it?
Yeah.
So if you mouse over
it,
yeah, that's the radius. That's the radius of the auto attack initially, and it doubles when you actually lock onto it, because it increases the range of the Cyclone once it's already locked onto it.
Yeah.
So it would actually be your Cyclone that is like the furthest right Cyclone you have right now could actually like shoot the command center from where it is right now, like barely. Like that would probably be the edge of the radius. Like it might lose it right there, but it's like that's like max range, whereas Cyclone is now to your command center. That's fucking super far.
Yeah.
So just initiating a lock-on, like sometimes your Cyclones will get hit, and it would only make sense to initiate that if, like, let's say you had 10 Cyclones versus like 3 Ravagers. You're definitely not going to lose a Cyclone there, and if you had no Hellions, it would make sense to take that because it's overwhelming and you're easily going to crush it. Whereas if it was like let's say it was 10 Ravagers and you have like 10 Cyclones, that would not make that would be scary as fuck to engage that with just your Cyclones. So maybe it would be best to have like a few Hellions with you as well. So you always ideally want to have Hellions, but then even if you get hit there, it would be okay because you could lock on, and then you could, even if you don't kill all of them, you could kill the majority. Another thing to understand to abuse lock-ons is vision blocks it. So if like your opponent's running up a ramp and you're like, well, I have like 7 lock-ons worth of lock-on right now, and that scan is worth exactly like if that was a mule instead, that would be worth maybe like 250 to 300 minerals in terms of a mule. But if I scan that, I can even if I kill only 3 Ravagers, that is still worth 300 resources right there, or even more rather. Sorry, it's worth like the Roach is worth 100, and the Roach is worth 100, and the Ravager is worth another 100, but it's worth 200 minerals and 200 gas in total. So it's 400 resources in total, which is fucking crazy. Or wait, what, did I say that right? No, sorry, a Ravager is worth 100 minerals, like a total. Sorry, I said that totally wrong. I doubled it. I don't know why. A Roach is 75-25, which is only 100, and then a Ravager is 25-75, which is another 100, but it's in total 200 resources because it's 100 gas, 100 minerals. But still, that's so worth it. That is so worth it to kill that. For like, if you can kill like 3 of those, that's fucking crazy good. Yeah. But yeah, like it's almost always worth it to scan, even if you're only going to kill like 1 or 2 units. It really is. And then this also applies to like let's say mutas are flying over a cliff. You can scan so you can see further. Sorry, I gotta like sneeze. I might sneeze in a second. I'm trying to fight it off. Ooh. And then yeah. Like if you ever feel like you're getting kited, it's worth it to scan if you're gonna lose like the radius due to vision, or if they're gonna go up and down a cliff or something like that. So yeah, just understanding how to scan with it, and then understanding how to engage with it. That's the only thing you really gotta understand with this unit. Last thing I'll say. This is the final thing about this unit that makes your life super easy and abusable. And the question I'm going to ask you is, do you know what rapid fire is, and have you watched a video about me talking about it?
One of my friends talks about it a lot, and have never fully understood what he's talking about when he's saying it's really good.
So all you got to do, and this applies to anybody as well that watches this on YouTube. If you go to my stream and you literally type this into my stream chat right here, you type in rapid fire just like that. You all one word, exclamation point, rapid fire, all one word. The bot will link you to a video that I also made on YouTube, and that video literally it describes perfectly how to set it up. So that video will describe everything to you, and you should do this as well after the lesson. I would recommend it. It's very good with cyclones, especially in the form of when you're fighting Zerg. What you do is you could literally drive to a hatchery, like with your cyclones and Hellions, and if you see no defense, you could hold down one button, whatever button you want to make. I describe it in the video. The one I use is T, which is fine. You could use whatever you want though. I use T, and all you would do is you would mouse over the hatchery, and you would hold T just for a second, and then all 10 cyclones would go like lock on, like within 1 second or half a second. They would all lock onto it immediately. It would maximize your damage. You would kill that hatchery. If you had the cyclone upgrade off the tech lab, you would kill that hatchery with 10 cyclones in a matter of about 2 seconds.
Yeah, I end up hitting C like 10 times.
Exactly. It takes way longer. It takes way longer. Like, it's not fair, because this is like how it would be. Like, if I'm gonna put my mouse, my microphone closer to the mouse, it'd be like I'm just like clicking my click and click. But it would be like this is the. So that's how it sounds, obviously, for someone microing. But this is what rapid fire is. I just casted it like 10 times. It's ridiculous. So it's because it's just every time T got hit right there, that counts as a click. That's what it means. It's insanely good, and it's really good for a unit like Cyclone at sniping buildings. It's also really good if you use rapid fire. Like honestly, you're probably never gonna really run into this kind of a situation, but it's really good if you still we're talking we're just gonna look way down the line just for a second and say you're like masters or something already, or maybe even GM, and let's just say hypothetically you were fighting a Zerg who was going like Ultralisk and you were still on Cyclone for this part of the game, for whatever reason, and you just rapid fired multiple ultras. It would be a really easy way to quickly burst out really high health units. So it has value in many ways, and it's definitely worth using, especially once you start using a unit like a Cyclone. So I would definitely recommend it. You could still have C be attached to it. You could have a secondary bind be attached to it as well, which could be your rapid fire hotkey, which is exactly what I do. So I don't always use rapid fire, but I do use rapid fire when I want to snipe a building.
Got it. And that would be good against like BCs and stuff.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Rapid firing a BC would be perfect, because the way Cyclone AI works, you have to understand that. I don't know if you understand this too, but for anyone who doesn't, and if you might not, if you ever auto attack, what's up?
Oh yeah, I do, but I explain it anyway.
Sure. Yeah. If you ever auto attack a Cyclone, like a group of Cyclones, let's say you have 5 Cyclones and there's only 2 BCs, every Cyclone will auto attack, but only the amount of Cyclones will actually use their lock on that match the amount of enemy units that are in the area. So if there's 2 BCs and 5 Cyclones, only 2 out of your 5 Cyclones will actually use their lock on, because AI will make Cyclones they will always target something else with a lock on, and if something is already targeted with a lock on, you will not stack lock ons no matter what unless you physically do it yourself. So you have to stack lock on. If you want to stack lock ons, you always have to manually do it. And that's a great reason why rapid fire is also good if you're fighting, again, like you said, like a BC. That's a perfect example of something that is high as fucking health. That would be useful there. But that's also why Cyclones are actually so good against mutas, which is why I said you didn't need turrets, because you could just be like, oh, 8 mutas in my base? I have 8 Cyclones. Lock onto all of them. Okay, now I'll just chase you till you're dead. Yeah, alright, you can hit play, and we can watch this for a little bit more. And at this point now, yeah, like you did right there, I would definitely say you need to back up to your depot wall. I would say you should have done that before the Hellions died, but I mean, you had the right idea.
I wasn't. I don't think I was paying attention when they started getting attacked.
For sure.
Which is how I lose a lot of things sometimes.
Keep that in mind too. If you actually are gonna ever idle your army, always have your army in a more less compromising position. So like where it is right now, that's a compromising position. Maybe if you're gonna idle your army, leave it behind the depot wall. So like we're talking like literally in the doorway. So like if lings come, they're just gonna get bottlenecked into those depots.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then if you're gonna do this here too, I would recommend as well. Look at how. Well, you haven't done it yet. Oh yeah, you did actually. I was gonna say, look at how your depots are in your main or your natural. For instance, they're behind your mineral line at your natural. Maybe get in the habit as well against Zerg specifically, making depots at your third, kind of like how you did at your natural. Like you could make them on the
sort of like
or what up?
okay, like a wall like here or.
It would be. Sorry, I couldn't see your ping because I was on your vision specifically. But like right there would be perfect. Like on like the north side, or like at the base of that ramp right there. Just a few depots at choke points where it could limit surface area or like limit areas of how Zerg can engage you. And then also what it does, if you have a depot wall like that, and let's say mass lings flood into you and they actually went to a side that you weren't ready for, it creates an artificial choke point you can then once again use to your advantage if you run to it. Yeah. So it's similar to like a mineral line.
Cool.
All right, and then now at this point, yeah, this is I would say it's starting to fall apart a little bit, just because not too much damage has been done to the Zerg yet, and you've taken a little bit yourself. Like that run by kind of fucked you a little bit. And I would say Cyclones are definitely a unit you definitely want to be a little bit more aggressive with. You want to, this is a unit you definitely want to be a bit more active with. So this is something I would want you to practice.
Yeah.
And then also, this is also why if you get your Cyclones out faster, it's going to be really good because then you're going to be going into the Thor composition earlier. And Thor's is a unit you can literally sit on your ass with until you're maxed, and then you would still win. Like that unit is fucking strong as shit.
Right. Whereas,
yeah.
This I definitely felt like I was running around cleaning up stuff like for a lot of the game.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to get anything done when you're doing that.
Yeah, Cyclones definitely have more pressure value than a Thor does for sure. And they have way more value in terms of mobility as well. The key there is mobility and pressure. Like you have to use it for it to be worth it. Because if you sit back, the bigger the Zerg gets, the harder Cyclones will feel to use. So the fact that you scan creep right there was great. Definitely do more of that. Another trick about what you can do as well, when pause the game really fast one more time again, just so I can describe this, and then we'll watch it one more time after, and we'll probably wrap it up there. One thing you can do as well against Zerg specifically, when you have your once you get to that point where let's say you have 10 Cyclones and you have the existing Hellions that are in your army that are just there. Once you're there, what you can do that makes I would say would make your life super easy is have a rally point in front of your base where your Thors and Hellions are going to be. They're all going to merge there, but just send, like, if you ever get a moment where like you just harass Zerg and now you're like backing up your Hellion Cyclone and now you're like, okay, I'm going to macro for a second while my Hellion Cyclone's kind of retreating across the map for a moment. Send maybe like 4 Hellions of like your new Hellions. Don't keep like selecting all army or something like that. Just send new units that just spawned, maybe some new Hellions. Send them into your third mineral line. Just leave them there. Just like you can even turn them into Hellbats. Just sit them in the mineral line and forget about it for now. And then have the new rally point of still the new units you're making, like in front of your natural and your main. So it could be behind the depot wall. With Thors, it could be in front of the depot wall. It really wouldn't matter at that point. Honestly, Thors are just self-sufficient as fuck. But like basically the point is you indirectly guard your third and your natural without even being there. Like you just make sure units are there, but you're not actually going to micro them because you're currently microing Hellion Cyclone, which is also what the Zerg's focus is probably going to be on. The planetary is also self-sufficient, so you don't really need to have units there either.
Got it.
And then you just, this way you don't have like a run by that you're like, ah, fuck, I got to pull SCVs and now they're all dead and I didn't notice it and all my SCVs are already dead and maybe the command center's dying now. Like this will prevent that shit from happening. And it literally takes one click from you to go, hey, run in the middle line, you're done. Easy. You could even be like, Hellions run in the middle line and shift Hellbat click. Like shift transform into Hellbats because you can shift that up with a Q. Or you could even just make Hellbats and just walk the Hellbats in your third middle. That would also be fine. Like just, yeah, I would say Hellbats would be better than Hellions because they would have more of a chance to not get fucked by Zerglings. If you're not there at all. And then yeah, like because the style is all about you want to slow the Zerg down as much as possible with your Cyclones. So you definitely want your Cyclones to be as active as possible. You don't want them to be sitting at your base very much at all. Yeah, it's ideal if they're not. And then if the Zerg was like going mutas, even then, like only if the Zerg rushed mutas and you were still on like 2 bases, and the Zerg was like, I'm gonna do a 2 base really fast layer muta rush. It would make sense then obviously to have your Cyclones defending the muta. But the second you start having Thors, like your Cyclones shouldn't even really be defending mutas either, because you should have Thor turret. And the Cyclones should really, for you to feel like you're winning the game, they should be killing all of the creep and throttling the base count of Zerg as much as possible.
Yeah, and so I just, in this game, like the fact that he's like kind of halfway across the map with a creep and has 5 bases.
Exactly. Like, the way you should feel about it, the way you should feel if you're playing well, is you should actually have higher base count than Zerg does. The only time a Zerg, you should literally feel like this. If a Zerg is all-inning you, well, then it comes down to like your positioning and of your units and whatever, and you may or may not die there. It really comes down to your micro, and that's whatever. Base count is irrelevant there because it's about an all-in, and that could happen a lot. The second way it goes is a Zerg plays a high eco or like a high base count, low tech style. These are the kinds of Zerg players that are going to go mass roaches, mass ravagers, lots of Ling Bane, shit like that, where it's just lots of low tech Zerg with high base count. If the Zerg matches you in base count in these games, either player is doing fine. But just know that if you're actually keeping the Zerg at a lower base count than you, and he's still playing like that, you are kicking the shit out of him, like really hard. That is very good for you. That is amazing. That is good job if you're doing that. Should make you feel like you're playing very well. If the Zerg though, however, if the Zerg is not staying very like high amounts of units on low tech, but instead has like higher tech units, like he's got Infestors, or he's got Mutalisk, or he's got Swarm Host, or something higher, Hydras, something that's more expensive, the Zerg should be lower base count than you. Because what Hellion Cyclone is it's a rapid expanding Terran style, and you should always have the advantage in base count if the Zerg is not just staying on mass roaches, essentially. So in this game, when he's going mass Zergling so far and Roach Ravager, stuff like that, he is staying low tech. It's okay that he has a high base count. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily losing. But what should be happening though is if you look at units lost, I would say there maybe should be a bit more than there are if we're talking about the game being up to 10 minutes. Like, you should definitely be trying to shave his units off repeatedly, because when a Zerg plays like this, even if they have a higher base count, you can really throttle their drone count because he's giving you so many targets to shoot at, basically, with Hellion Cyclone. Because as long as you can kill the creep, just know this, as long as you can kill the creep and you force the Zerg to fight off creep because you keep killing it, you can take always better trades against Zergs who go Roach, Ling, Ravager, Bane, whatever, anything like that. You will always take better trades if you just pull back at the right time. You don't just concave it and let yourself get surrounded and stuff like that.
Yeah, cool.
Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
That's helpful.
It's something you're gonna have to practice. I do not expect you to be able to do that right now. I'm not like, oh, well, you're perfect. You're gonna be able to micro like a god now. Like it definitely requires a lot of like uptime and like repetition to get good at this. But yeah, this is something you're gonna need to do though, because it's not required in Platinum. It's not required in Diamond. It's honestly not even required in most of Masters. But it is required if you do eventually have that goal in mind to get to GM. Like you'll hit a point probably around like 4.5 to 5k MMR. That's going to be that moment where if you get there and you start getting better with this style, you're going to realize that if you don't, right around there, if you don't maximize your Hellion Cyclone opener, Zerg is going to run you over every time. But up to that point, you can probably get away with it with being idle here and there. Just as long as you don't throw it away. But yeah, anyways, that is the concept of Hellion Cyclone. It's a rapid expand build, which allows you to explode in Thors, because you should have a better economy than Zerg, realistically, if you're forcing the Zerg to react so heavily to not dying to Hellion Cyclone.
Got it.
And another thing I will say too that's very important. You know how you made your 4th command center? When made it into a planetary, you lifted it off and stuff like that. That was really good. I loved it. Never stop doing that.
Yeah, I think I'm still getting used to like doing something with my units.
For sure, yeah.
I slip a lot.
Yeah, just
compared to when I just mass units and max and then A move.
Yeah, no, I agreed. It is this is why, like, what I'm teaching you right now, and the reason why I'm teaching you like this is because, I mean, your style is very Diamond-esque, and you want it to be. You're like, yeah, I'm feeling like I'm ready for Diamond, and you're beating Diamond players already. This is basically a Diamond level coaching lesson, which is honestly how I'm going to label it, because I'm not teaching you Platinum level shit right now. So if you just keep making those command centers, you get good at harassing. it's going to turn into a situation where if you can throttle the Zerg on 3 bases and you have like 5 with 2 of those PFs, 3 of those being orbitals, that's fucking great. Like you are now ready for a Thor transition that is going to just immediately annihilate the Zerg the first time you push out with it. That's like your goal for sure.
Yeah.
All right, you can hit play for a little bit longer. This time when you hit play, put it on ×4, and then we'll kind of speed through this now. Because I feel like the majority of the setup, I kind of see what you're going for. Yeah. I feel like I've made a build for you that I think would be really efficient for you in my mind already, like the 10 Cyclone build, and we'll get a way for that to really flow for you. And we'll give you benchmarks now. And then I really like that you're using sensor towers as well. That's really nice. And then imagine if you had a couple Hellbats in that base over there. You wouldn't have had to come back for that.
That would have been nice there, for sure.
And then you could keep throttling the Zerg more in his face. I do like that you're going. You do have the idea to go Thors already though. That's very, very good. And with this build too, if the Zerg does go for like Lurker or he goes for Infestor, and you're like, well, I'm kind of afraid with my Thor, feel free to mix in some tanks. And you already are, which I fucking love that you can already do. Like I'm not gonna lie, some people find this really hard to understand, but the fact that you're doing that already is really good. And the two units you should mix in tanks for are Lurkers or Infestors. If it's anything else, I would say, honestly, you don't really need to. Actually, pause it one more time. I'll explain one final thing. If the Zerg has any type of an air hybrid in their army, do not ever mix in tanks. Like if it's like Mutalisk, Baneling, Zergling, or something like that, just go Thor Hellbat and you'll crush the shit out of it. You do not need tanks there. Tanks are just going to make your life way harder. It's going to be annoying. But if it's anything if like pure ground focused, you can make tanks earlier. Like, we'll say, like, maybe you realize, okay, yeah, he's going into Lurkers really fast, or he's going into Infestors really fast. Those are the big 2 ones. You could make tanks early. Like, maybe, like, we're talking 120 supply, okay? Like, early on. Okay. You could start making tanks, and I would say the goal would be to get anywhere between 6 to 8 tanks. Always. Never go beyond that. Like, ever. If you go crazy tank, you give yourself, like, some people do this. I would say, once you really understand the game more, you can start going crazy tanks like later on in high levels, but I even win games in GM because players don't even understand this in GM, where they're like, I'm going to go mass tanks, and I'm like, I'm going to make mutas, and I win now because you have no fucking anti-air. Like, people do that shit all the time. All you need is seriously like 6 to 8 tanks. And the concept of tanks is, it's not about, I'm going to kill your army as it engages, and before you even touch me, you're dead. Like, that's what people try to do when they go for like 17 tanks. Or like 20 tanks. Yeah. All you need is an army in front of your tanks, and now suddenly 6 to 8 tanks can shoot 4 or 5 times each, and they're still going to do the damage of what the initial shot of like 18 tanks was, or 20 tanks was, because they shoot multiple times over and over and over, and now suddenly if your 6 tanks shoot 3 times each, that's 18 fucking shots, and that's the equivalent of what 18 initial tanks would have been, but realistically, you also have Thors that are going to last longer, and like Hellbats and shit in front of your tanks that are going to last longer than what 3 tank shots are worth. Like, your Thor Hellbat's not going to just die in 2 seconds, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's going to last for probably like 10 seconds, which is more than 3 shots per tank. So, again,
do you think?
Or go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask, like, sometimes I feel like I'll have like a maxed out Thor Hellbat army, and I'll lose to like a mass Hydra, just based on positioning. Is that a situation where, like, if there's a lot of Hydras, should I make tanks then?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say you're always gonna make tanks, and the way it goes is you're gonna make tanks early. You're always gonna make 6 to 8 tanks. I know I said like you only make tanks against like Lurkers or Infestors if you see it early, but that's if you see it early. If it's like a rush, if he's like, I'm just gonna fucking do a Lurker timing, or I'm going really early Infestors, then it would make sense to make them early. But if it's like a generalized Zerg player, always just before you move out, when you get to like 160 supply, like roughly 150, 160, start adding in tanks then, and literally make like 6 to 8. Don't max out on tanks. Don't make like 15. Just make like 6 or 8. Anywhere in there is okay. If you make like 5 or if you make like 9, that's still okay. But if you can hit anywhere in the range of 6 to 8, that's fucking perfect. That's like, it's not too heavy investment into the tank, and those tanks are going to fuck so hard. They're going to beat the shit out of Zerg like crazy. So that's
kind of a weird question,
Yeah, sure.
maybe, or maybe it's not a weird question. Is there something special that you do recommend for like knowing how many units you have? Like I guess what I do a lot of times is just like hit the all army hotkey
Yeah.
and then like kind of page through it.
So
But sometimes it takes a little like 2 seconds or something. And like, do you keep track of stuff as you make it better?
yeah,
Or
the easiest way you can look at it too is your life is going to be super easy if you just know this. Tanks take the priority. There are units that have priority, and tanks are the first priority because they have a ability which is siege mode. It's actually like it's more of a priority than Thor's having impact payload mode, and also Hellbat's having Hellbat mode. Siege mode is like the core of the tank. Like in the way Blizzard has coded the unit is that if you select a Thor, a tank, and a Hellbat or a Hellion or whatever, the tank is always going to be the first of that list. So if you have all your units selected and you go siege mode, it's going to be the tank is going to be your initial selection. So all you have to do is look at your selection of your control group in the bottom middle of the screen, and if the tanks are, you can easily count it. There's 8 per row. So if you see 6 or 8, you're great. If you see what looks like 4 or 5, you can make like 1 or 2 more. If you see a full row plus 1 more below it, you have more than 8. You have like 9 or maybe 10 if you have like 2 down there. Just try to get 1 full row of tanks. That's it. Try to get about 1 full row of tanks, and if you can, that's awesome. If you have a little bit less than 1 full row, that's still okay.
cool.
And then again, it's always going to be the priority. So if you do hit select the army, or if you have like control group 1 is your army or whatever, it's going to be right there. Tanks are always at the top of it. So then yeah, that's that. And then if you can remember it too, if you'd remember, or if you have the amount of tech labs and you just go 6 tanks, I just made 6 tanks, or I made 7 tanks, then that, obviously you got it there too. But yeah, that many tanks right there is going to be perfect because you just set up your tanks and suddenly the way you should then engage. Okay, now we're going to talk about how to engage, and then this is where we'll leave it, and then we'll kind of get out of here and we'll make you a benchmark.
Okay.
The way you engage is ideally you want to kill creep always. Like you want your Hellion Cyclone the job of the Hellion Cyclone is to really not kill the Zerg but really kill the creep.
Yeah.
So that when you do eventually push, you have like a blind ass Zerg who doesn't see you coming. And he doesn't have mobility either. But the second you're in range of threat, that you're like, okay, the Zerg could run me over here. Like this is now scary. This is now the area that I could die in. Siege your tanks and leapfrog your tanks. Be patient about it. The only time you should not be patient is if you know where the Zerg is and you know he can't punish you where you are right now. If you know he's out of position for whatever reason. Like maybe you did a Hellion run by and you saw his whole army go over there or something. But if you just don't know where he is, or if you know he's in front of you, like he's about to push you as well, leapfrog your tanks and never have the idea that you have to push the Zerg. Always have the idea that you're going to poke the Zerg until he pushes you. Always have that idea. And if you do have that as your main core concept of how you play, you will never be abused by Broodlords. You will never be abused by Neural Parasite. You will never be abused by anything. Even Swarmhost won't really abuse you. And the reason why is because if you push when you're maxed, you will have enough tank and Hellbat and Thor and all this shit to be able to handle a few waves of Locust and still have an overwhelming amount of shit that just pushes him. But if you, I will say this though, if you do see his army is majorly in the Swarmhost side, you don't have to be as leapfroggy. You could probably push forward and then you'll be okay because his army is all about sieging you then too. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if he has anything besides Swarmhost, literally anything, you want to take your time. Like don't just walk your whole army into his base and then siege everything at once. Because if he takes the fight into you, you're going to take a massively advantageous fight. Because StarCraft 2, you'll realize this at some point if you don't already, but this game is all about the setup of a fight, not so much about the fight as it happens. It really is.
I think I've learned that the hard way a bunch of times.
Yeah, like if you have a bad setup, you're going to be like, well, that fight fucking sucks. Okay, well, I'm dead. Like it happens all the time.
Yep.
All right, so
I have one last question about that. How do I is there a good way to think about like when to use like command center energy, like on scans of creep versus mules, or like should I be like if I'm doing this build against a Zerg, should I be like not dropping mules to save scans to clear creep?
So you should be dropping mules all the time up until you're ready to move out with Hellion Cyclone, and once you really feel like you have power with Hellion Cyclone, your priority should actually be scans.
Okay.
Because you should think about it like this: if you scan and you kill creep and you put Zerg in a uncomfortable position where he needs to, like, let's say you push creep all the way back to his third base. Every time Zerg engages you, even if they lose like 2 roaches, just 2 roaches, and they don't kill anything of yours, and the reason why this works out so well for you is because the Zerg is fighting you off creep, so it's really easy to take fights like that. That is more advantageous for you than a scan. Like, sorry, than a mule is what I meant to say. Like, if you drop the difference of dropping a mule is less beneficial than killing a few roaches, and that's gonna happen. Yeah, that's gonna happen because he has no creep.
Yeah.
Because if you take fights on creep, you're gonna realize your army is gonna keep dying as you try to engage him over and over.
Yeah, I'd lose most fights on creep.
Yeah.
Unless I'm maxed.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks.
Right. Yeah, no problem. Any other questions?
No. I guess we can get out of this.
All right. So I'll just make you a benchmark game now, where you can have this as your quota. Cool. And I'll take you. Yeah, I'll take you to max with this one. All right. Make me lead. Just right click me and make me party leader, and then I'll just make a game, and then I will do it. All right. Submarine. Same map. Okay, and then if you have any questions while we're doing this, feel free to ask. No worries. Okay. And then I'm not gonna try to kill the Zerg with this, but I am going to kind of give you an example of how you should move your army. All you do is you literally bounce back and forth between the natural and the third, over and over and over. And then if you ever killing the natural is kind of greedy. You probably are not going to be able to get that done unless you really fuck the Zerg over. But realistically, you probably could kill the third, maybe if the Zerg takes overcommitment fights and you ever see an opening, because a lot of times the Zerg will have like literally nothing in front of their third, but sometimes they'll put like their Roach Warren or their Baneling Nest in front of their natural. So it's a little more dicey to dive into the natural, whereas the third is usually more exposed. But it's literally just this. You just bounce there. You just bounce in that line right there, over and over and over, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Once you've killed the creep.
Got it.
All right. And then what we're gonna do as well is we're gonna go 3 factory into a 3rd command center. Because this build is all about pressure, so you want to have good amounts of pressure. You definitely want to be active. Normally with the other build I was doing 2 factory in the 3rd command center because you're all about defensive, so it makes more sense to be a little greedier there. And timing is everything here. Like, that's why we're going to go for a 3rd factory, so we can have 2 cyclones at a time being made, which will take us to that 10 faster. Alright, we're going to use our barracks SCV to scout, and we're going to make the next SCV that's going to go to... Basically, SCV 19 is going to build our natural. And scouting at this time, if you scout as soon as the barracks is done, you'll still see Zergs with their like 12 pulls and shit hit you before they get to your base, so your Reaper can just stay defensive if this happens.
Okay.
And then what you would want to look for in a normal... I don't know what the computer will do, but in a normal game, if you scouted a normal Zerg, you should exactly that. You should see a hatchery that's like finished or like finishing. And if that's what you see when you get over there, you know that the Zerg did not go pull first.
And so if I see that with the SCV and the Reaper's on the way, I can just bring the SCV back right away? Or should I like...
You don't need to scout into his base. You can use the Reaper to scout into his base. You want to maximize your mining time as much as possible with this build.
Okay.
Alright, so now while this is happening, I'm just literally microing my... I'm hitting 4, I made a reactor while doing this. I'm hitting 5, I'm making SCVs while doing this. I'm still like between auto attacks. Auto attack, make SCV. Auto attack, check my SCV. Auto attack, make a reactor. Auto attack, check my SCV. Like I'm always it's like a cycle rotation. Every time I do an auto attack, I rotate in the macro element of it too. You don't want to just stare at the Reaper and be like auto attack, auto attack, auto attack, auto attack, auto attack. Never macro, never macro. You definitely don't want to do that, and a lot of people do that.
Right now I hotkey my barracks and factories and starports on like different hotkeys? Should I put all the production on one? Or
I like that better. Yeah, I like it on one because it's what it's gonna do is it allows you to you can just hit tab, easy peasy, and especially if you're just going mech as well, realistically you're not even gonna have to have starports or barracks on those things.
Okay.
But yeah, I think having it on one is better because it I think it just flows better with my hand. It's just personal preference. Like I don't want to reach for like 5, 6, 7, 8 all the way for like more production facilities.
Yeah.
Oops,
Okay.
I did not mean to lift that building. Alright, now we're going to make another factory. The second this one's done, we're going to make a final factory with the same SCV. So he literally builds every building. He builds all 4 in a row. And then the barracks just makes add-ons for the buildings in between when they build.
Got it.
And then now we can take our Hellions out. We can. This is when you can obviously go like poke the Zerg, and then you know, I would say don't poke with the first Cyclone. If you do poke anything with the first Cyclone, it should just be Overlords. Do not actually go attack his base with just one Cyclone. That's pretty scary.
Okay.
And then once your natural is like, I would say right about now, once it's like we're talking like 10, 11, 12 SCVs, like a little bit more than halfway saturation. Take double gas there and get ready to start your upgrades. But you will not be able to start your upgrades on your armories until you get that gas going. You won't be able to afford it otherwise. And then the second you start those upgrades, I would say right after that, start your armory for the +1 armor thing we talked about.
And if I make a mistake or something and I don't have all the gas at once, should I prioritize the Cyclone lock on or blue flame, or just depending on what units he has?
It depends. Yeah, if he opens up, if you see roaches like I do right now, you should definitely prioritize Cyclone lock on. If you see a fuckload of lings, you should prioritize blue flame.
That makes sense.
All right, and then now with the final, you know, our naturals being fully saturated now, we have enough. We have a lot of money now. We can take our third now. And now we can move out. Now we have a few more Cyclones. I would say this would be an okay time to go. See, look how, this is important too. Look how I rally pointed my factories. Notice how I put it right in front of the open depot. So if I change the depot, let's say I want to put it there instead. I would now put my rally point there. Do that. That way your units bunch up at the doorway, which always creates the artificial choke point that Zerglings cannot go through. But your units are still safe.
Yeah.
And then I'll start putting depots like how I was talking about before with you. And now this is when I would say you definitely want to start being more assertive with your Hellion Cyclone here. And we're now going to make that armory because we have the upgrades going. And then remember, when Command Center 3 is done, we're going to start Command Center 4 and an armory, a second armory, and an engineering bay. But we're almost to the 10 Cyclone mark that we want to go to. We're at 5. We're currently actually supply blocked. It's almost off. If you get supply blocked, you can just throw it on a depot like in your main ramp. That's fine. Like the bonus depot, whatever. Well, yeah, we're super close. Now the armory's almost done. Command center is finishing right now. So immediately, okay, now make a 4th command center. Same spot. It's fine. Make a 2nd armory. And make a engineering bay. And the Cyclone count right now is still almost done. We're at 6, about to be 7. Start armor upgrade. Start another orbital on our 3rd base. We can drop mules there. Transfer some SCVs as well from the natural that are extra. And yeah, this build's just. Or go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Sometimes I feel like when I do this build, I feel like I have a lot of map control. Does it ever make sense to build like your 3rd like on location if you feel like you have
I would not recommend. The reason why is because if he all he has to do to fuck that over is what if he does like a 6 Zergling run by and you don't notice it and you're like way across the map and you're like, oh fuck, okay, well 6 Lings just killed my SCV, now they're killing the command center and they might actually kill it entirely and deny it before I get back.
Right,
Like, that
so it's just not worth it even if
it's a little risky versus people who would multi-prong you.
Okay.
Okay, and then now I would say we have enough Cyclones. At this point now, we can start making, again, we have the double upgrades. You can get building armor as well, just to be extra safe for stupid run-bys and shit like that's annoying. But now we can start going into, again, we have another command center done. We can keep making the command centers for more PFs now. We have Thor production started. And once you get to a point, which is going to happen pretty soon now, where you cannot physically afford, or you can't spend your money anymore. You're like, well, I just have too fucking much. just start making more factories now. And you would want to, I would say that a good pace to do it on would be, you can start 3 more factories all at once right now and make 2 of those tech labs, 1 of those reactor. And now we're going to be going to 4 Cyclone, or not 4 Cyclone, 4 Thor and 4 Hellion at a time, because we have 2 reactors and 4 tech labs. And that would be great to max out on. And then once you max out, you could add on more again. But 5 factories would take you to max. Alright, and then you just, literally, you just keep pressuring back and forth. And at this point now, you no longer are going to be moving around your new rallies. This is it. Like, this Cyclone army you have, this is it. This might even win you the game half the time. It's dead serious. And you would just keep saturating your bases, keep taking more bases, and so on and so on, and just keep rotating this army back and forth, scanning and killing creep as you go, and so on and so on. That's all you do. And never make these frontline units that you're making up here. Never make these Hellion Cyclone units. Never make them Hellbats, ever. But check this out. Watch the Cyclones. This is the power of lock-on. Actually, I'm going to let this finish. I'll let it finish, and then we'll do it. That'll be a better example. As to if you ever saw an opportunity to fuck something over. And then we're going to take another base. And then make our SCV literally build another command center. And at this point, too, I would say you could make like sensor towers, too, just to be extra safe. And then, yeah, just keep your upgrades flowing on your armories and shit like that. Keep SCVs being saturated properly. And we're going to max out at like 10 minutes with this build, while being aggressive with Hellion Cyclone. And if you don't max out at 10 minutes, the only reason why I would say that would make sense would be maybe what's it called? You lost some Hellion Cyclone and you needed, that lost you some supply or something like that. And that would be okay. Because you're obviously, if you're doing damage, then you're doing damage.
Yeah, and I shouldn't. If I do lose stuff, I shouldn't probably replace it.
You should not replace it. You should. That's why the whole point is to not lose it as much as possible. So don't try not to take fights that are going to cost you your army. So if it looks sketchy, just shave it. Don't try and engage it.
Got it.
Just engage always the edge and never commit deep on a creep. Never dive for drones essentially with this style.
Okay.
Always shave off the sides, and then if you can retain as much as possible, the goal is you want to get the Thors as quick as you can, because this army is gonna, again, it's gonna be the win condition. And then if you ever get to a point like this too, where you ever see, let's say you scan and you're like, oh, Zerg doesn't have shit here. This is the power of a lock-on, of a rapid fire lock-on. And then you can just scan it again just to have vision. You can go to the edge of the range and you just back off, and it just fucking dies.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually crazy how fast you can kill a hatchery with lock-on. Yeah, that's it, man. That's literally the whole build. The hardest part about this is going to be microing these Hellion Cyclone back and forth over and over to keep them active, because they need to be active to make this build good. But keeping them active and not fucking up the actual build. That's the hardest part about this.
Right, yeah. It's like playing piano with both hands.
Yeah, man. It's but once you get it down, like you just keep doing it, and you will get it down more and more over time. The build will start, once the build starts feeling like second nature, it'll get 10 times easier. Because the hardest part for you right now, I bet, is going to probably be to remember when to do what while harassing, which is going to feel overwhelming. Yeah. But whenever you don't remember what to do, always just come back to this as a reference. This build, I'm telling you right now, this build will take you all the way to Masters, like, easily. It might even take you to GM if you get really good at it. I guarantee, like, this build I just gave you right now, if you had the hands of a GM Terran that was already GM using it, they could still do well in GM with this build. It's just efficient. It's got power, but the better you get, the only reason why I say, like, I kind of make it one of those things where I say even a GM Terran could do well with it, is because once you get the GM, you'll start to learn that you can't do the same exact thing every time and still win every game. You have to be a little more reactionary once you get to that level. So maybe it would make sense some games to like make more than 10 Cyclones or something like that.
Right. I'm definitely at the point where, like, even if I play well, there's like really obvious glaring mistakes on both my side and the opponent's side. So,
yeah. And then, yeah, man, from this point on, obviously you could make tanks. Once you, and then here's actually, this is the final thing. We didn't touch on this, but this is important. This is very important. When you get to maxed out, if you have maxed out on Thors like I just did, the perfect thing to do would be to then actually suicide this Cyclone Hellion army you have out on the map right now. Whatever Hellions are out there that are still bruised up or whatever, and the Cyclones you have, let them die. But you obviously try to do damage with it. Don't just suicide it. Maybe kill like a fucking hive, or go kill his natural. Go kill his third again. Do something to fuck him over and sack it, And as it dies, like I'm gonna let it die. The Zerg's already attacking me, but whatever. If it dies though, which it should, but you fuck them over even more, you replace the supply of this with tanks.
Yeah, I definitely have had some awkward situations where I like have like kind of a weak max with like too many Hellbats and not enough doors and stuff.
The ideal max you want to aim for would be again like 6 to 8 tanks, and about, I would say, maybe like 10 Hellbats, and like about 10 Hellbats would be nice, and then the rest literally in Thors. So it would be like 15 doors or like 12 doors.
Got it.
Because yeah, if you still had these Cyclones in your army and you went for the big A move, max out, these Cyclones are not going to add very much power to your army at that point. The Cyclones kind of perform like shit in maxed out fights. Like they don't scale that well. They're just good at being annoying early game. All right, man.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, dude. Save that, use that, and I'm dead serious when I say I'm very confident that build will take you to Masters if you get more comfortable with it against Zerg specifically.
Cool. Would a similar build work against other races?
I would say
probably Terran, I guess.
It would work against Protoss. It would not work against Terran. The reason why it would not work against Terran is because of siege tanks. Like if he has defensive siege tanks, you're gonna walk over there with Hellion Cyclone and be like, "Fuck my life! Oh my god! Well, this sucks."
Is there some like video or something that I can look at with like a reasonable build to do against Terran? Because I feel like I guess I can just keep doing Thor Hellbat. I can probably get pretty far with that if I just do well.
I would highly recommend maybe checking out the BDGM Diamond videos of TvT that I have had, and I would say they're not super mainstream because my Terran has kind of evolved since then, but it's still for Diamond, the purpose of Diamond, it will definitely help you.
Okay. Yeah, I watched this. There are different builds and stuff. I was wondering if there's one. But cool. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
I wish you the best of luck, dude. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. And dude, go crush some fucking nerds, man.
Thanks, man. Have a great day.
Yeah, take it easy, you too. All right, guys. That has been a coaching lesson with my boy Josh. But everybody, guys, hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you guys want to check out more, I say this all the time, go check out more of my YouTube videos. There's so many more out there. Even if you want to hit subscribe, I never say that. I never tell you to subscribe, but if you hit subscribe, guys, guess what? You can literally click the fucking account and you can see everything. You can see when I upload every day, whenever I do it, and you can see all the videos I've already made. So if you're looking to learn more about StarCraft, no matter what race you are, Terran, Protoss, or Zerg, I have way more videos out there for that purpose. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one. Until then, much love. Take it easy. Adios, guys. Later.